All right, I have 7 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we are here to address Western Drive and the sinkhole. We have some bids that Jeff's going to present to us.
Yes, we had actually two companies bid on it. Moraine Excavating and JMR. And I did, just so everybody knows, Doug contacted me and I got with our engineer Mark and we did open the two bids and we do have a recommendation. And we, after talking, we really did not want to go with the rehab type bid because of some of the other structural issues on the side of that. So it really wasn't a good option for us. So it's really coming down to the two bids. Moraine Excavating was at $58,360. And the bid from JMR was $47,850. However, after reviewing the bid, and I'll give you guys a letter from the engineer, we did not have enough information from JMR to accept that bid. There wasn't enough detail in there. It didn't even reference the plans in there. It basically said it was tree removal, a 36-inch plastic wall, labor, and it said tank 60 by 60, and wasn't sure what that was because there's no quote tank on the job, and then it listed a total. So unfortunately, we felt that there was not enough information there to go with that bid, so we are recommending the Moraine Excavating at $58,360.
What information are you missing?
Let me just show you. This was the bid. Here is Moraine's bid here. That doesn't say that anything about following the bid specs like that at all. That's very basic, where Tony Moraine actually listed stuff out, itemized some of the components, and it very closely follows the one sheet of information that we presented to all the contractors. It follows all the information off this plan here. My big thing from JMARS, there was no reference to this plan specifically, especially on how we were going to put the job back.
But for 11 grand, can we ask for the specs to make sure that it fits within the?
Well, that's why you bid it, and typically when you bid a project like this, that's why the engineer would review it and say it's a good bid or not.
So on the standards of the responsive and responsible bidder criteria,
Yes.
you feel like both contractors had adequate information to present a reasonable bid to
Correct.
begin with?
Correct.
And you have documentation of that, right?
Correct.
That these are the criteria they were given to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and that they knew what the expectations were.
Correct. And on any bid, you should have enough bid information back to understand that they're going to follow whatever those specs are. And unfortunately, the one does not have enough specs on there where I'm confident, and Mark, the engineer, was not confident either. And if you look at the two bids, you can see the drastic difference in the two of them as far as information.
And how did these two contractors get information that bids were being requested?
It was emailed to both of them along with mailed copies.
Okay. Not published anywhere?
No. The state law for this type of work allows us to send out to 3 or 4 contractors. I think the minimum is 3 contractors of our choice. And then, go give them a reasonable time to get the quote back to us.
This guy just says, that's it.
So,
Anybody else have questions for Jeff on the process that we followed to get here?
and by the way, I used the process that Graham sent me. It wasn't something I came up with, it's actually in the state code. So, and you can use, this is a process you use if you're going over, if you expect the quote to be over 50,000, but under like 150,000. It's kind of that middle ground, so you don't do a full bid spec like you did when you did the sewer treatment project. That's much more detailed, but yet it's not one where it's considered a small job where you can go out and just get verbal quotes.
Right.
This is kind of in between the two of them.
I think that if we was to go back to this, what is it called, JMAR, or, and ask them to clarify, then it would make it seem like we're kind of
Correct.
giving them a little leg up or something.
Correct.
Type of a
I don't
thing.
think so, not if he's not changing the price. If I'm cutting a check out of my own personal checkbook and there's that much of a difference, I'm gonna follow up and find out. Maybe he didn't do his paperwork as good, but that doesn't mean his job isn't gonna be as good. And it's $11,000 and we don't have a lot of money. So, that's just my 2 cents.
I'm just used to following bid. You have to accept what they gave you and make your decision on what information was presented to me. Because if I go back to him, then why couldn't I go back to our other contractor to lower the price? I'm really conflicted about, or can't do that, because if I talk to one about updating the bid, whether it's a spec or price, I'm really in violation of that open bid process.
I would
I
say.
understand where you're
because-
coming from.
I would say that because the one is so much lower than the other, it makes them look like they're not credible. Like they might do 3/4 the job and then say, you don't need more money, and then you'd have
Well,
to
you
sue.
could just scratch us a check for 11 grand, and how about that?
Well, so when we talk about a contractor being responsible and responsive, the responsive part is about if there's expectations that didn't get met, that somebody can reach out and say, did you realize you missed this? Or we need more clarification on this. But if that didn't happen, then I don't know if they're responsive or not.
Again, as somebody opened the bids, once you open the bids, you see that they either got all the information or not, and you have to make a decision. I can't go back. The bidding requirements don't allow me to go back to that contractor for clarification. You have to make a decision, otherwise you have to make a decision on the information you have in front of you.
So in other words, what we would have to do is just not accept either one and rebid it out again, correct?
Correct.
Well,
I mean,
from
That
what
is
I
what-
remember with talking to Graham about the process with the sewer lining. So we have 2 bids. One of them, we're being told by the engineer, doesn't meet the responsive criteria that was put out.
Correct.
And so what we have to do is state that either we're going to accept the bids as is and deem JMAR's bid as not meeting the minimum,
Correct.
or go to that step of we want to put out the criteria again and get a new set of bids for the future, which then again delays the process of fixing
Correct.
the hole in the street.
Mhm.
So, discussion amongst board members. What do you guys want to?
Well, I hate to prolong it anymore, but, just, are we in a huge hurry to, I mean, are we trying to get some grant money or
This is
something
not
like
grant
that
funds, this
for?
is coming out of your stormwater fund, cause it's a stormwater project. We do have the funds in that line to cover the project.
How
And we
long
were
do
trying to
you
get it,
How long would you say that it would take to redo this again?
and go out, you're probably delaying at least a month
Okay,
at this point in time, because if you're gonna do that, you might as well go for, and see, open it up to more contractors too, not under the quote, emergency rules.
I think the bid process as it is, we followed, and both those two contractors submitted the bid. One bid seems to be just kind of,
And I had two other
Halfway,
contractors that did not bid because they're just so busy.
halfway done. He also didn't put down any amounts for the work that he's doing. So at some point or another, what happens when he hits his he hits his cost level where he's got to start figuring out, oh, well, I'm not going to remove all the trees because that's going to cost me extra. So, and the fact that Moraine is here, and if we give him the bid, he's here in town,
Mhm.
and we can have him back to fix it, his work, if it's not done correctly.
Correct.
So I'm willing to take the bids as they are and go with the advice from Banning and accept the Moraine bid.
Can I ask a question over here? Where in the email was it that it was stated that it needed to meet the specs of the prints? Because I never received that portion of it.
But it's gotta be clear enough to where we could understand that it's gonna be the work that was issued in the prints. If there was a statement that said it was the work that was presented on the drawing, we could take that. There is no statement like that in there. So, that's why the engineer made the recommendation that he did.
I see that again there,
The bids,
oh,
can we,
I'm sorry.
sorry. There you go.
This is the concrete apron thing we talked about last time, after we
Last week,
flattened it out for the snow plow and all that.
No, this was as it was bidded. The concrete apron thing would be just a simple, after we awarded the contract, it would be a change order for me, because it's a relatively small, treatment to the manhole, essentially. Setting it in concrete instead of setting it in the asphalt. In fact, if you look around at town at your manholes, you have several manholes in town that are in the middle of an asphalt, and there's a square concrete around them, and that's to hold them in place so they don't fluctuate. And sometimes that concrete's tinted gray, so it's harder to see.
all right, so council, what are we wanting to move forward on here? We've got two options in front of us, declare the Jmar bid as not responsive and not responsible as the criteria was laid out, and go with Moraine, or rebid the process. Just would need a motion
Simple
from
motion.
someone
I'll
on,
make a motion that we accept the process as it's been carried out, and we accept the recommendation from Banning from Moraine.
okay, got a first motion?
I'll second.
Got a second motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay?
Okay. 3-1, motion carries. Any other business that we need to address today?
No.
All right, got a consensus for adjournment? Okay, meeting adjourned.